Hello everybody, welcome to the channel. My name is Ron, and today we're going to be doing a very fun list, I think. This is going to be a top 10 list of the most fun overclocks in Deep Rock. Now, this is all personal opinion, and fun doesn't necessarily equal good. You'll see that in a couple of the ones that I chose here. Fun just is how much fun I personally think that they are. So I would love to hear what your guys's are. We're going to go through the top 10 in my opinion. We're going to have some honorable mentions. And these aren't going to be in any real particular order because they easily get shifted around from day to day or whenever I'm using them. So let's just begin. Coming in at our number 10 spot, we have the Ice Spear overclock for the Cryo Cannon. What this one does is make it so whenever you hit your reload button with the Cryo Cannon, this will consume, I think it's 70 or 75 ammo. Maybe it's 60, I don't recall. I actually don't have the stats pulled up or anything. And this will fire out an Ice Spear that does extremely high single target damage. It also does some AoE damage, but it's mostly for single target damage. It can work really well on Dreadnought missions, works really well against suppressors. I don't know if I've ever shot it at a bulk detonator, but I imagine it would work pretty well against them too. Works really well against Tri-Jaws. It's all around a super fun overclock to use, and it doesn't really come at a detriment to the gun. You could also argue that it's not way great because something like Ice Storm is probably more ammo efficient and Snowball is probably more crowd damage. But still, I like Ice Spear a lot. Coming in at our number 9, we've got Bullet Hell. This one's for the minigun, and this one is just random chance, more or less. This one lowers your damage and makes your max spread increase by up to 500%, I believe, unless you take the Tier 1 mod where you can drop it back down to a decent amount. It's still much wider than the regular minigun, but it's more controllable then, and this makes it so every single bullet that you shoot out has a 75% chance of bouncing off of either an enemy or a surface to then hit a nearby enemy. Super fun to use, not really that consistent. You could argue how good the overclock actually is. In some cases, it can actually be really good and provide a lot of value. In other cases, it's just kind of okay. It's not really the best for single target damage, but it is good for groups. So, Bullet Hell. Coming in at number 8, we have Roll Control from the Breach Cutter. So all this does is let you pivot or spin the Breach Cutter shot in any direction that you would like. You can do this for the duration of the Breach Cutter shot simply by holding down the fire button. If you release it, then it stays in the line of where you put it. This one can be really useful because you can get to some really weird angles. It's great for taking out things. It's amazing on escort missions. And it's pretty good on every other mission. It doesn't come at any detriment to the Breach Cutter, and the Breach Cutter is already amazing just with its base kit. So I really like Roll Control. I find it super fun to take this, especially with the Plasma Trail, because then you can actually have some pretty good area denial too. Coming in at our number 7, we have Fat Boy from the Grenade Launcher. Firing mini nukes is always going to be fun. It's not very ammo efficient. It works much better against crowds than necessarily single targets. It can work pretty well against single targets too because it does hit really hard. You can also use this for mining, technically, if you want to. Again, not the most ammo efficient, but you can do it if you would like. And it creates this nice radiation cloud that lights up everything, although it will hurt everything that stands in it. So don't be too close when you fire this, and if you are taking it on most multiplayer missions, you might want to have the passive perk friendly so you're not killing teammates and potentially yourself. Coming in at number 6, we have Impact Deflection from the DRAC-25 Plasma Carbine. Bouncy rounds are amazing. That's all this overclock does. It just makes it so your rounds can bounce another time, but that is pretty incredible for crowd control as well as it actually is a pretty good overclock overall. Super fun to use, very entertaining to watch. Can have some detriments like hitting Dreadnought cocoons, but that's not super likely to set them off. Can hit things on the ceiling that might drop on friendlies, and it could potentially start up a prospector fight or something like that. Number 5, we have Salvo module. This one essentially gives the gunner a shotgun, an explosive shotgun that fires out up to 9 missiles that do very high damage. This one is kind of odd for an unstable overclock because it doesn't come at any detriment to the gun, really. Other than you can't continuously fire and target with your rockets. You can still fire them one at a time and guide them around normally. But if you hold down the trigger, then you load up to 9 of these. They scale with damage, and you fire them out like a shotgun. They work really well against crowds, and they work really well against single targets. And it's just a super fun and cool looking overclock to use. At our number 4, we have the RJ250 Compound for the Grenade Launcher. If you've ever wanted to have a ton of mobility with Engineer, this is the overclock for you. This lets you fling yourself with your grenade launcher. You do vastly reduced damage, but you get a lot more ammo, and if you build this for crowd damage, like doing fire damage and stuff. It's pretty good for crowds. Obviously not that great for single big targets, but that's not what you're building it for. And again, you can fling yourself around the map, which is super fun to do. At number 3, we got magic bullets for the revolver. This is similar to bullet hell. If you've never wanted to aim or just kind of wanted to hit in the general direction of enemies, magic bullets is probably for you. This just makes it so all of your bullets home in on any nearby target. This is great if you combine it with the explosive rounds and the chemical rounds, because then you're slowing everything down, dealing a lot of damage from the chemical rounds, dealing AoE damage with the explosive rounds, and you really don't need to hit all that close. And the bullets can still bounce into other enemies, dealing damage to them. Super fun overclock and really, really strong. At number 2, we have explosive chemical rounds for the Lock 1 smart rifle. 3-round bursts make it so anything explodes. You put electricity damage on this, you're doing explosive damage plus electricity damage. You combine it with something like Inferno from the Breach Cutter, and you've got a very heavy-hitting primary weapon with a also very heavy-hitting secondary weapon. It's also great for crowds. It's very ammo efficient. Now, before we get to number 1, let's go over some honorable mentions. I have 5 here. Our first one is Plasma Burster Missiles from the Hurricane. You can control the missiles even better than you already do. They can punch through multiple enemies. You can bounce them around through enemies. They look fantastic. They're also still bugged, so they're very strong in escort missions, unless maybe this isn't a bug. I don't know. It hasn't been fixed, so very strong against the floating rocks. It will kill them with a single hit. Either way, it would probably kill them very fast even if they didn't do this. Our second honorable mention is Hipster. Super fun overclock, very strong overclock. You just can spam fire the M1000 so fast. It's very good against crowds. It's very good against single targets. It's very ammo efficient. Just a fantastic overclock overall, and I love to spam fire it into crowds. Our third honorable mention is Hyper Propellant from the Grenade Launcher. This might be my favorite grenade launcher overclock, but maybe not the most fun, or at least the fun that I get from it. Very high single target damage. It pretty much turns your grenade launcher into a railgun. Fantastic at any range. It punches through really anything. If you want to hit anything super hard, take this one. I just run at full damage, and it hits like a truck to anything that you hit. It also can kill teammates incredibly fast, maybe even faster than C4 in some cases. Coming in at number 4, we have the Goo Bomber for the Corrosive Sludge Pump. Super fun overclock to use. You get to create streams of goo that enemies have to walk through. You can light the goo on fire. It's all around just a cool overclock. I really enjoy it. And then our fifth honorable mention is Spinning Death from the Breach Cutter. Who doesn't want to shoot out purple blenders at the bugs? This does a pretty high amount of damage if you can set this on top of something. This does lower your damage, lower your clip size, lower your ammo with the Breach Cutter, but what it does is pretty fun and pretty cool looking. It can also be really good for holding choke points. Pretty good overclock. I like it. And then our number 1 spot, I don't think this will be to anybody's surprise, is the Special Powder Boomstick. If you've ever wanted to fly in Deep Rock, this is probably the closest you can get to flying. If you combine this with the Overclock and you combine this with Born Ready, you can actually fly. You never need to hit the ground because you will have enough time to either reload your guns or switch between your guns to get the Hoverclock to where you will float in the air, or the Special Powder to where you can send yourself flying. You can also use this as an escape in practical fights, just jumping into the air and firing. And you can also potentially kill yourself with this if you are at too much of an angle and fling yourself into the ground, because that counts as a lot of fall damage just because of the velocity that you're moving at. Super fun overclock. I really love it. So these have been my top 10 most favorite overclocks with some honorable mentions. They could really be switched around. There's a lot of really cool overclocks and a lot of really fun overclocks in Deep Rock. I just felt it would be really fun to do this list. I'll also be doing a list sometime in the future of the top 10 worst overclocks in my opinion, and kind of ways that I would like to see them buffed or changed or whatever it might be. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Thank you guys so very much for watching it. I really do appreciate it. And special thanks to the supporters of this channel. These are my members over here on YouTube and my patrons over on Patreon. They get early access to videos like this. And if you would like to be a part of that, you can. There are links down in the description. Remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye!